childhood up, we have had to conform to a certain social game. And so we're in a constant state of competition. This is the secret. You can't make a mistake.
Welcome, everyone, to Friends of Failure. I am Sam, and this is my co-host, Megan.
Heyo.
I'm excited to introduce to you our guest today. He is one of the hosts of the podcast Midnight Movie Cowboys. This is Hunter. Hey, Hunter, how you doing?
Hey, glad to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, man. How's your day going so far?
It's going pretty good. It's Sunday. It's a day of rest and relaxation, which I always enjoy.
Yeah, and I noticed, you have a very nice, comfortable environment, right? You've got, the desk, and you got the wildlife. It seems very peaceful.
Yes, this is 100% real. What's behind it? It is not a
no
fake
illusion.
Background. No, this is my room. Ignore the lighting inconsistencies or the fact that my hand is disappearing. It's all real. It's all 100%.
He's a wizard.
It's not movie magic.
It's
right?
all yes. It's all 100% practical effects. like Steven Spielberg promised us in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Practical effects.
I love how he goes right into movies. This is his thing. It's amazing.
My thing.
This is a movie guy.
I know.
I don't know if people got that from the podcast that he's a part of, but you're definitely a movie guy, right?
Yes, I make my living in film, and the podcast is just a part of that. So yes, movies are my thing, for sure.
Yeah, you teach movies, right?
Yes.
I think you teach how to make movies.
Correct, and I teach a history and appreciation class.
Okay.
But yes, I teach mostly how to put together films and realize your projects. Basically, a lot of it is it's almost like coaching in a way.
Oh, okay, but less hot and less outside.
Yes, it's very comfortable and air-conditioned coaching, sitting in front of a computer.
That's my kind of coaching. Yeah,
yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah,
I have a friend. He coaches football, and he'll be getting ready for the season to start, and he's like, "Yeah, we're getting revved up," and I'm like, "It's August. It's 1,000 degrees outside."
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, how could you do that as a movie coach, if you will, right? Like, you're outside, everyone's sweating, and you're like, okay, we really need to pay attention to detail, guys.
Yeah. Well, if you're shooting in a harsh environment, that can be what happens.
This is true.
That doesn't typically happen for me, but there's been plenty of films made in miserable conditions. So
I immediately went to Titanic and picturing Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet at the ending, right? Weren't they actually in a giant pool, and it probably was fairly cold?
Yeah, probably not the most comfortable setting. Although if they were shooting in a studio, so it's not too bad.
So on that topic, what was your opinion? Was there room on the door, or was there not room?
I think DiCaprio was murdered. She wanted a good story to tell people, and so people would feel sorry for her. I think she
had to kill him off. I got it. I agree. I'm on that team.
But she never let go. So
never let go. She was speaking metaphorically.
Right. Right.
Physically, I'm gonna let you go, but you're in my heart forever.
It's all. You know what? You're still alive right here.
There it is.
There it is, right? And forevermore. That's what she did. Is just carry. And then the song starts playing, right?
Yeah.
Celine Dion.
Yes.
It's real loud for 3 minutes of the podcast.
Oh man.
Yeah. So how long have you been teaching film? I'm assuming you did that in college, and then that led you into your profession, or?
Sort of. I studied history in college, and I studied film academically. But I got into the film industry while I was in school. I got an internship working for the Memphis Film Commission, which is a government office that recruits movies to shoot in town. And when they get there, my job was to make sure they could get the locations they wanted, make sure they had support from the city, the government, you know, whatever resources we could provide, that was my job. So that's how I got into the industry, and that's how I started working on movies. And it was pretty cool. I was spoiled early on because Memphis was really exploding at the time, because Walk the Line had just won a bunch of Oscars, and a movie that was made locally called Hustle and Flow won an Oscar, and it won the Audience Award at Sundance. And another movie from Memphis called 40 Shades of Blue had won the grand prize at Sundance. That's a lesser known film, but it was pretty well regarded at the time. So the city was really blowing up. And, you know, the 3-6 Mafia had won an Oscar for Hustle and Flow, and they had this big party at the Rock and Soul Museum, and I got to go to it. And so wow. that was my introduction to the film industry. So it was pretty cool right out the gate. But you know, it was hard work, working on a lot of putting stuff together for these movies. And the most fun thing I would do is I would get a script and I would read it, and my job was to sometimes take the filmmakers to locations in the city where I say, hey, you know, you should shoot here because we have this place and this place, and this looks good in your script. That was the most fun thing to do, because you got to sell the town and take people around, and it was kind of like going on a little trip.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you definitely had to have been meeting some, I mean, maybe you weren't meeting George Clooney or anything, but I'm sure you were pretty close to some high profile people. I mean, meeting these people who are trying to make movies in Memphis at the time, right? I could not imagine like Hustle and Flow is winning all these awards, and then you get to go to a party for it, and it's like, oh, this is how life is meant to be, you know?
Oh yeah, this is my life from now on. No, and the city was really big at that moment, but Louisiana was so competitive, they were getting way more business. Like that's when stuff like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button was shooting down there. And the reason Louisiana got so much business was they had very, very generous tax incentives. So we had tax incentives in Tennessee, but you would get a percentage of your spend back based on what you spent in the state. Mm-hmm. So you would only get money back for the crew you hired, who, if they had a Tennessee address. So that means that if Brad Pitt is in your movie, you're not getting a percentage back on his salary unless he lives in town.
Oh, okay.
Or in the state. However, Louisiana they would just incentivize all of it. So it didn't matter if you brought in your entire crew from LA. I think there was kind of a minor outrage because Benjamin Button got millions and millions and millions of tax dollars thrown at it because they spent so much money in the state, or not in the state, but just on that film.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Louisiana gave them all this money. And I remember some of the newspapers were writing going, wait a second, why are we giving how much money to Hollywood?
Yeah.
So, right.
So
that's got to be a huge difficulty for, I mean, that scale is way out of my ability to even try to comprehend, right? Of trying to put a movie together and having filming locations.
It makes me think of like how much could go wrong, right? In that big process. And I'm sure you like experienced or witnessed some of it.
Oh yeah. There were movies all the time that would start and I'd get a script. We'd get calls from producers and they just never happened for whatever reason. Movies largely, most movies that start production don't, a lot of them never go anywhere. Financing falls through. Somebody involved with the project leaves. Sometimes the money's just not there. But I remember there was a guy who produced a movie about Jerry Lee Lewis, and I guess that was like his thing because he was always trying to do another Jerry Lee Lewis movie. You know, sometimes people have the rights to something. Yeah.
That's like all he wanted to do.
Yeah. That was his thing. He wanted to do another Jerry Lee Lewis movie. He did one with Dennis Quaid. I think he wanted to do another one.
Wow.
Just a completely different actor. I imagine, we've entered. So the closest thing I have to relating is when I was growing up, I did watch a lot of movies, and I was fascinated by trying to watch some foreign films or different genres, horror, action, whatever. And people would hear about a movie, they'd get a teaser trailer, or you pop in a DVD and it'd be coming soon to theaters or coming soon to home video, and then you just waited. Now people, as soon as there's any kind of news about production has started, people are like, okay, I'm ready. Yeah. And they're like, no, we just started making the movie. And I remember growing up, I liked Jackie Chan movies.
For sure.
He, obviously did just a wide variety of films, but as he got closer to doing the Rush Hour trilogy, as far as I know, there's only 3, right? A lot of things started to come out about how he would do his own stunts. There was Rumble in the Bronx, and then there was another one. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been Rumble in the Bronx, but he straight up broke his leg, and they were like, well, we gotta wait. And then that's just what people did. Now people go into outrage of, you said the movie was going to be out, and it's we have no comprehension of what it takes to make a Netflix show or
of that whole
movie.
process. Yeah.
Well, and we see this going on right now. Production's held up on the new Indiana Jones film because Harrison Ford is injured. And
really,
he injured himself. I mean, the guy's in his 70s.
Yeah, I was about to say he's a little old, but
he's a little old, and given the number of planes he's crashed, I kind of wonder if he does it, if that's something, if he's trying to.
It's intentional.
Engine failure, right? Just going
Harrison,
down.
are you okay?
Steven Spielberg's just keeping him alive, saying, you have to keep making
one more
movies.
Film. One more film, right?
Just do another Star Wars. Just do another Indiana Jones.
And then he gets in his plane and he's like, I'm gonna do it, man. I can't make another.
I'll show you Indiana Jones, right?
But he's one of those actors, when he doesn't care, you can tell. He phones in performances all the time where he's just sort of, oh yeah,
I wondered why he, I guess, still acts.
I don't know.
I'm surprised he's not retired. Yeah, I just wonder if somebody was like, come on, man, and they just twist his arm. He's like, okay, I'll do you this favor and be in Star Wars again, or I'll do Indiana Jones. But there are people, they dedicate their life to it, and I can commend somebody for that, right? And I don't know how actors or anybody in that industry deal with that, because even though sure, for a lot of us, we're not hunting down and learning everything we can about writers and directors. Obviously, a lot of the people that get the attention of their celebrities, but even then, when you go into certain categories of entertainment, you lose a little bit of your privacy.
Oh, for sure.
And when I'm 70, I don't want people knocking on my door being like, hey buddy, you're Han Solo.
Yeah, most actors are grateful just for any work at all, because that echelon is that's rarefied air that someone like Harrison Ford is in
to get to that level.
But he's always been a funny one, because he didn't even want to do Return of the Jedi. He requested that he be killed off screen,
Really?
And they were like, nah, we're not doing that, or what?
Yeah, they begged him to come back, and he did. But if you look at his performance in the first 2 Star Wars versus Return, you can tell he's just sort of
over it. Yeah.
Not everybody else is holding a blaster. He's got he's got a TV remote. He's like, yeah, get him. What's going on here, right? He's just holding an Ewok, hey guys, check it out. Sure. Wow, okay. He's just doing whatever he wants in this scene.
But yeah, if you watch the documentary, he talks about Empire of Dreams. He said, I didn't want to come back. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
So you became a teacher after college, or was it years after college? Because how long did you do that internship or whatever it was?
Well, it turned into a full-fledged job. It started as an internship, but I did that for, probably 5-6 years.
Oh wow.
And then I went over to publishing, because I was working for a publishing company, and so I was working over there, and I was writing and things like that. But I eventually moved back to Dallas, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I decided that, I'm good at taking in information and sharing it with people information I find exciting or interesting. So I decided to pursue education, and I went back to school and got my master's in education. And then I started teaching, but I was teaching history because my
Your degree was in that.
Yeah, my degree was history, and history is another thing I'm passionate about. So I love, when I'm reading books, it's usually history stuff.
Yeah. Were you like a good student? Was that something you loved to do, or you just fought through it?
Honestly, with my academics growing up, if I wasn't interested in the class, I would not give it my best effort.
That's fair.
When I was growing up, when I was in high school and college. So my history classes my grades were strong. Film classes grades are strong, but math, not Spanish, classes I was made to take. I remember I had to take I took a class called animal behavior to get a science credit, and
it was terrible. It was not a fun time. I feel, and that's kind of like I don't know if it's the American education system, but you have to be great at everything. Like they want you to succeed in every area to become like well-rounded. But if you're not interested, like you said, or you're not going to even use that later in life, why do you have to get 100 or like a 90 or an 80?
Right.
Like,
and looking back, I wish I had applied myself more, because when I went back and got my master's, I got straight A's because I really was working hard, because I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And I took classes that I had zero interest in, but I got an A because I'm here to get this degree, and I want it to look good,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely could have applied myself more. And, I do think there is some value in knowing a little bit about stuff that maybe you're unfamiliar with. I just, it's just, to what level do we need to push people in?
Exactly.
You need to know some math. Like, you just have to.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to have a hard time in life if you can't do math, because it's part of your everyday life. But something with film, I notice one problem the art form has right now is the people making movies are only interested in movies. So you get a bunch of movies that are about movies. Now, some people do this well. Like Quentin Tarantino does this very well. His movies about movies are fascinating. They're insightful. They're really good.
But he's Quentin Tarantino. But he's like a different level of success. And
But you have a lot of filmmakers who they're not really bringing any other experiences to film. Because one thing, the best filmmakers, in my opinion, are people who are interested in things. They're interested in more stuff. I'll give you an example. Somebody like John Huston, who did The Maltese Falcon and Treasure of the Sierra Madre and Annie and Under the Volcano. He's a guy who liked to do things. He liked to go out and live life. I'm going to go on a safari. I'm going to go try stuff out. He was just a guy who liked to grab life by the horns. A filmmaker like Werner Herzog, who goes, I'm going to go into the Amazon and I'm going to drag a ship over a mountain, but so it can get from one river to the other, because there's no other way to do it. I'm going to literally drag this boat over a mountain to make this movie.
Wow.
And work with an extremely difficult actor and make this movie in these miserable conditions, because I'm so interested, because it's about the movie's about opera. It's about this guy who wants to bring opera to the Amazon, and he's so desperate to do it, he's going to drag a boat over a mountain.
So it's the passion. Like if the creator doesn't have a passion for the subject, it's not going to translate to the audience.
Right. And when we watch movies, we want to experience something. I want to experience I want to experience whatever that filmmaker is trying to show me. But one problem is you have a lot of filmmakers who their experience is just movies. You know, they've never gone out and tried new things or studied other stuff that interests them. They're a little too focused on the art form.
Movies. I do. It makes me think about how, well, I guess I'll touch base on the math thing. I was decent at math, right? I got to seventh grade and I did like, I did well. And I did so well that the teacher was like, he does well enough that maybe we need to just bump him up. And so when he goes to eighth grade, we'll put him in like an advanced class. And so I went from like, all right, I got this math thing down. I just got to do it till I'm in 12th grade, graduate, to I'm sitting in a classroom going, I have no idea what's going on anymore. Oh. And they were like, come on, man, you did so great. And I was like, sure, if you would have just basic 7th grade math and put me in basic 8th grade math, I probably would have done exceptional. But so I always thought that was strange because math was never something I cared about. I was just doing it because that was my job as a kid, right? Go to school and get the grades. And I definitely kind of relate. I mean, I never finished college, but for me, there wasn't a means to an end. I was just doing it because I felt like I had to. And so I did. I had some classes that I loved, did great at them, but it was just because I was interested in doing the work, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, kind of to what you were just saying, as a kid, when I would watch movies, I was really fascinated by the people who on camera could make themselves cry, and it was believable. You felt that emotion, or like the people who could just get wild. I will always love Nicolas Cage. Like,
oh my gosh, Nicolas Cage is my hero. I have a pillow. I have 2 pillows in my house with his face on it. Vampire's Kiss. Oh, beautiful. Yes.
And that's one that like I quote sometimes, because isn't that the one where he's running?
I'm a vampire. I'm a vampire.
And so he, to me, was somebody, you know, I was born late 80s, so I got to experience, you know, Nicolas Cage during the 90s when he's doing like Face Off and Con Air and whatever.
Oh, Rock. So good.
The Rock. And when he was doing, you know, those earlier films, there's a bunch of them that I've either seen clips from it or maybe I've seen him a couple of times, but I don't even remember the names of them. And I remember he was the king of freaking out on camera.
Oh, so yeah.
What I used to do is I would go on YouTube as a kid or a teenager and I would Google Nicolas Cage freak out and then watch those compilations. And I still to this day, if I'm having a bad week, I'll just, you know, Google that and watch that for 20 minutes.
Well, his new movie Pig is getting great reviews.
I want to see it so bad, but I'm worried about it, man. You heard about Mandy, the movie Mandy?
I saw Mandy and it was very hyped up and I was quite disappointed with it. I thought beautiful. It looks good.
Yeah.
But it's just an artsy sort of blacklight poster brought to life. I didn't get anything out of it. I was unable to connect with it. It was kind of a meme movie. Like, we're gonna have Nick Cage and he's gonna do crazy stuff and none of it's making sense.
So in your opinion, do you think Nicolas Cage is, I always get this question, is he actually a good actor or is he too much?
I think he's actually good. I don't think you can look at movies like Raising Arizona, Leaving Las Vegas, Moonstruck, and look at his performance and say that guy is not a good actor.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are power, like Leaving Las Vegas is a pretty, you know, the depiction of alcoholism in it can be a little much at times in the film, but the way, because Cage plays a guy who goes to Vegas with the intent of drinking himself to death, like he's committing suicide via alcohol. And but the way he a switch will just flip where he'll have a freak out in the middle of a casino. You know, it seems a little much, but it's pretty realistic. You know, if you've ever been around someone like that, they can just go from happy to enraged, dark in a blink of an eye when they're in that
those
space.
mood swings.
Yeah. So it really made good use of that. And a movie like Moonstruck, he's hilarious in that. He's really funny, great comic performance. Same with Raising Arizona, which it might be his best movie. It's a great movie. And but you know, he has this energy that gets used really well. I don't know if any of you have seen David Lynch's Wild at Heart.
Mm-mm.
Oh, if you guys like Nick Cage, go watch Wild at Heart. Nick Cage.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, it's okay. Here's the plot. It's The Wizard of Oz, but starring Elvis and Marilyn Monroe in the modern day.
What year is this
I'm already
movie?
oh my God.
It's like 1990, I think.
Okay.
And Nick Cage wears a snakeskin suit the whole movie.
Perfect. Which led him into, what was the Snake Eyes movie that he did? But
Snake Eyes.
Totally
Oh yeah, similar get up in that film, Snake Eyes. That's a fun one.
I brought up Mandy because that was a movie that it got super hyped up. And, you know, Nicolas Cage, at some point in time, maybe in the early 2000s, they were like, he's getting divorced. Now he's just making movies to make money because he owes.
I was going to say, he just started cranking them out, and not all were of substance.
He entered that Burt Reynolds phase where he had to make money because he's been divorced so many times. Cage is on his 5th marriage.
Oh, I didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah, so, you know.
Kind of a tough time.
He was married to Patricia Arquette. You guys will like this story. He was married to Patricia Arquette, and he saw her. He was with Crispin Glover. Do you guys know Crispin Glover? Yeah. I met him one time. He's genuinely he's an interesting guy. I'll just say that. But he was with Crispin Glover, and he went up to Patricia Arquette, and said, "I'm going to marry you one day." And she was like, "Okay, whatever." And he said, "Well, what do I have to do to prove it?" And she said, "I want J.D. Salinger's autograph. I want a statue from Bob's Big Boy Burger.
Yeah.
And I want there was something else. It might have been a painting or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was something absurdly hard to get."
This is the weirdest marriage proposal and also start of a relationship that I've ever, and it worked. That's the problem. He married her, right?
Yeah. Okay. So what happened was he paid J.D. Salinger was famously reclusive. He did not sign a lot of things, but he acquired a book signed by him or something, got it to her. And the other thing he did was a difficult thing to do. I can't remember what it was, but then she got wind that he was going to take a chainsaw to the Bob's Big Boy statue.
So he's crazy in real life too.
She communicated with him and told him to stop.
It was obvious he was going to be relentless. The statue's coming down. You're getting the book. You're getting the.
Yeah. Well, anyway, she didn't see him again for a little while. But when she did, I think a few years later, she saw him, and
it took a few years after?
Yeah, he came up to her, and he was still like, "I'm crazy about you," and she said, "Okay, well, we got to get married. You know, will you marry me?"
Wow.
And how'd that work out?
It didn't, but
it didn't. Yeah, it failed. Some would say.
Failed. He's a friend of failure in marriage.
Oh yeah, 5 times.
I and that's a good point, Megan. These people, there has to be something that they're pulling from. So Mandy, the part of the hype was they were like, "Hey, Nicolas Cage is back," and so for us who go, well, that implies that we're going back to like a certain standard of movie, maybe.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing I took from that movie, other than the fact that I guess the cinematography aspect, the way they filmed it, and some of the images that they showed to the viewers, they were beautiful. But there's a scene where he's like in a bathroom and loses it, and I remember sitting there going, oh my goodness, it's happening. He's doing the thing, right? He's doing the thing right now, and he loses it, and he's emotional. But then you have to go like, where is he pulling that from, right? I mean, he's been doing this since the 80s.
Yeah,
maybe not the 70s, right? Just the 80s and on.
No, he was an 80s.
Yeah.
In fact,
what is he freaking out about? Like something happened, and he
goes to this place in his mind, and oh god, I want to go there. I want to see what it is.
I wouldn't know what he he pulls from, because his real name is Nicholas Coppola.
Yeah.
His uncle is Francis Ford Coppola.
The wine guy.
Yeah, the wine guy and director of The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. And in fact, he was accused of being a product of nepotism, and so he named himself after his favorite comic book character, Luke Cage.
There it is.
So that's where the Nick Cage thing came from. But he's always been a big fan of comics. He loves comics. He named his son Kal-El, I think.
Which is Superman, right?
Yeah, that's Superman. And he almost played Superman in
I was about to say,
Right.
there's that scary picture everyone's seen of Nick Cage in a Superman suit. And honestly, like, it would have been great. I would pay good money to see that, but it would not have portrayed the...
It would not have been good. And the thing, there's a video that was on YouTube that I found on accident watching Nicolas Cage clips where it wasn't Tim Burton. It was somebody that I recognized was like, hey, we're going to use Nick Cage as Superman. And they were doing the test of the suit. So, I mean, he's in a hotel room wearing it. I mean, it very briefly, it was a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was good that it didn't happen.
It was a good failure. Let's be thankful that was gone.
Yeah, Kevin Smith, the director of Clerks.
I love Kevin Smith.
Yeah, he gave a very famous talk where he was involved with that film. He was the writer on it.
I know that.
Look this up. Go look it up when we're done. You'll love this. He gives a talk where he talks about that movie and what his involvement with it was. And he said he got all these weird demands from the producer, like, I don't want to see Superman flying or something. I don't want to see he said
that's the whole point.
Yeah, he said, I want to see Superman fight a giant spider at one point. And,
this producer's son is like giving him ideas. He's like, Dad, can you make him fight a spider? But he can't fly.
But Kevin Smith goes, and years later, I go see Wild Wild West in the theater, which was from that producer, and lo and behold, there's a giant robot spider.
I love Wild Wild West. So he had an idea. He had to wait for it to come to fruition, but yeah.
Yep. But yeah, there's a very famous talk Kevin Smith gave where he talks about how that movie didn't happen, and I think he was kicked off the project when Tim Burton came on because Burton didn't want.
So Tim Burton did go on there. Okay, I was like, why?
Yeah, it was.
Tim Burton?
Yeah,
it's just Nightmare Before Christmas, but it's the same story, but Nicolas Cage in a Superman suit.
Yeah,
God only knows who's gonna play, Sally or whatever.
He's gonna be voiced by Danny Elfman. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow. Woo. That's pretty wild. If you could meet any celebrity, I have to ask, who would it be? Like any movie star, dead or alive?
Dead. If it's somebody who's dead, I'm gonna say John Wayne or Orson Welles. Orson Welles or John Wayne, maybe.
John Wayne's a classic.
Yeah.
My mom was obsessed with him, and like we grew up watching those. True Grit, the whole thing.
Yeah. It's hard to pick just one, because then I think, oh, Jimmy Stewart. Oh, I would say Humphrey Bogart, but I don't think he and I would get along. But
like meet him and then straight into a fight.
Yeah. If you listen here, he'd smack me in the face.
Yeah. Oh,
but as far as living, gosh, I think I one person that I think would be super fun is Henry Cavill, because he's this super handsome Chad guy, but he also is a nerd who builds gaming PCs.
He's yeah, I would leave my husband for him, maybe. Right?
I think my wife feels the same way.
Most women do. Like just his range in The Witcher, and like,
and
full package.
And he's one who said he was a fat kid and lost weight, and
goals right there.
And he just seems like a solid dude. I think he'd be fun to hang out with. And
he seems down to earth.
And I love his Superman films. I love the Zack Snyder Superman stuff.
We just watched them. I'd never seen them before, and we did like all of DC, and it's really good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a huge fan of DC, but I did like the Superman movies.
Yeah. I liked that trilogy that Snyder did. I wish they'd let it continue, but I think they're going in some different directions with it. But
didn't they kill off Superman because of his contract or something?
There's a lot of different stories, but Warner Brothers, I think, wants to go in a more Marvel-esque directions, more jokes, more shorter movies, tighter plots, more like they brought in Joss Whedon to reshoot a lot of Justice League because they wanted it to be more like a Marvel thing. And they're wanting to get rid of the Snyder stuff, which is too bad because I think his movies are extremely distinct from the Marvel stuff. They have more sincerity to them. They have more heart. I really like that about his work.
Is it because DC's darker, you think? And they're like, hey,
they
let's
want to,
lighten it up a little bit.
They want to go more commercial, right? They want it to be a big, They
want it to be like the thing that's popular, which is Marvel. And
so from your perspective, like you go way back with movies, right?
Oh yeah.
You know the history of them, and you can go in detail about things I probably don't even know exist, right? I think as a kid who loved watching movies growing up, I got to a point where, I still want to watch a movie every once in a while, but I'm always super hesitant, even if I have some excitement after a trailer. I'm afraid that I'll go spend an hour and a half, 2 hours watching a movie and be like the Mandy movie. I hate that that's the only movie I keep bringing up, but I was so excited for it. And then it ended up being why was I so excited about that? And it was
you don't want to get disappointed. Yeah.
So my point is, how do you feel where there are some really magical and great storytelling type movies out there that no one even knows exist, right? Currently, modern day movies.
Sure.
But the mainstream is strictly about, hey, we need to be able to go from the age of 5 to 95 years old and all of them like it, which is like that cookie cutter kind of feeling where you lose emotion. It's got to be funny. It can't just be, doom and gloom. It's got to have the whole range and emotion, Does that ever bother you?
It bothers me tremendously. One thing I remember growing up, you would go to the movies, you would have an action film, you'd have a comedy, a rom-com, you'd have some horror films.
Mm-hmm.
You would have a range of stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff for guys, stuff for girls, stuff for kids, stuff for couples, stuff for stuff for people who like action. There was all kinds of things. Now, what's the last hit comedy you saw that was new?
It's been a long time.
And
that's my favorite genres, and I always have to go back to like the 90s or before.
Mm-hmm. They don't make comedies anymore, and it's because they're so afraid of offending people, I think, but also because I think the superhero movie has rolled up all the genres into one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You want a comedy, you go watch Guardians of the Galaxy, because it's full of jokes. It's also full of action. It's also got everything else. And it's almost like it's become the catch-all. The blockbuster becomes the catch-all thing. Remember the summer used to be blockbuster season. That's when you got your big budget movies and
action, and
now it's all year. It's just that seasonal element's gone.
I miss when they were still leaning into, okay, around the time of Halloween, there were horror movies that you could go, hey, I want to go get spooky. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now it's like, it's 3 days after Valentine's Day. Let's drop a horror film. And you're like, what?
And like, it's almost the horror stuff, that genre they still make a lot of them, like Blumhouse and A24 churn those out pretty quick. But it's, I don't know, horror is a genre that I've sort of shied away from because I don't see a lot of good new horror movies these days.
Right.
I have a friend who's an actor who used to, he actually says, I just turned them down as a rule now because I've never watched one I was in and gone, boy, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
I honestly, I don't like horror movies, but this is making me think of like the Sharknado type movie. Like,
Oh wow.
and what do you think of that whole production company and the whole like, hey, we're purposely gonna do a bad movie? And used to they were like no one really knew what they were. It wasn't popular, but now it's built up into something somewhat successful.
I have never enjoyed intentionally bad movies. I say I grew up watching Mystery Science Theater.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the culture around it, but for a movie to be enjoyably bad, it has to be really sincere in
Like
what
they
it's setting
actually
out to do.
made it bad. Yeah.
Tommy Wiseau, I don't know what's
Oh my
going
God,
on
I
with
was
that
gonna
guy.
bring it up. The
Yes,
Room.
The Room. That's a movie where this is a guy who's really trying to parse through some confused feelings and not conveying them in the slightest way that like
You're tearing me apart. That's
that he's trying. It's funny. I love it when guys write their own characters in movies
and then they play it. Yeah.
And they play it and their character is a flawless being.
Yeah.
Johnny in The Room, he's a great guy. Everybody tells him he's a great guy. He's such a great guy. And then his best friend betrays him with his girlfriend. They cheat on him and they're mean. They're bad. They're evil people because they betrayed Johnny. He's so good and righteous and wonderful. And then he kills himself at the end. And it's like, look what you did to me. It feels like a letter from a jilted lover. That's what The Room feels like.
But they made a movie about it and like committed to it, like hired some poor people that had to act in it. The dude who played his friend actually wrote a book about the whole experience.
The Disaster Artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they
made like why?
Which I haven't seen yet, and I want to see that because
it's pretty good. I liked it.
It's a movie about a movie, like we talked about earlier, and that movie was so classically bad that there's a cult following behind it.
Yeah, it became the first organic midnight movie in a long time, and but directors like Ed Wood, he's another guy, very sincere. I want to make science fiction movies that people love, but he just was completely talentless. And that's another one. If you like The Room, go watch Tim Burton's Ed Wood starring Johnny Depp. It's a movie about Ed Wood, the guy who directed these terrible movies, and it's a wonderful film.
I've heard about that one. I never saw it.
It's Tim's best movie, I think. It's
really?
Tim Burton's best movie. Yeah.
Have you seen a movie from I think the 80s called Clowns from Outer Space?
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I was working at an ice cream shop as a teenager, and somebody they were like, yeah, we're getting ice cream after we watched a really bad movie. And I was like, oh, like you went in excited about it? They're like, no, we knew it was going to be bad, but we went into it like it's a campy movie, let's see what it's about. And he was like, it's hilarious. And I never looked into it. I did see it. I've seen it twice, I think, because I saw it and I had to show somebody. I was like, what is this?
That's kind of the culture of bad movies. You're like, hey, I'm going to make you watch this thing because I had to watch it.
Yeah.
I have a close friend. You remember Sandra, Sam, and that's our like core of our relationship is watching bad movies and like going back and forth. And like we would just go to her house and watch them over and over. Have you heard of Sleepaway Camp?
Yes, I've seen Sleepaway Camp. And Sleepaway Camp is a funny one because that's one that is not a good movie, but it has a cult around it that really likes it. And I think it's because they saw it when they were young and that ending shocked them.
Oh my God, that ending. Sam, you don't even know what we're talking about, do you?
I didn't see it, but I know what you're talking about because people have said the exact thing you're talking about. Man, that ending. And they're like, I should tell you what it is. I'm like, no, don't.
Yeah.
And they're
no, you have to watch it.
Yeah, it's got a shock ending. And I think that's what people remember about it. Because when you watch it, it's a pretty, it's a questionable quality.
The second one though, it was just hilarious. Like we were like laughing the whole time we were watching it. There's a point where there's this girl down in a pit and the other girl is like murdering people and she's just hitting her with a stick for like 5 minutes. And it's like, what is that? Is she trying to kill her or like poke her?
You have Bruce Springsteen's sister going on a killing.
I forgot. Yeah.
Wow. You know, it's strange to me how we are, like with Sharknado, right? We are in a place where sometimes you're watching the movie and you go, is this intentional? Did you do this on purpose? Right. I think with older movies, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but
well, with older movies, they were trying to be successful, and like there wasn't that culture around bad movies.
Right.
And that's the thing too. It's that, you know, we've watched a lot of bad movies. Let's go make a bad movie now. You know,
like let's take our experience of the badness and just make more bad movie, but comically.
But I just, anytime I've watched a movie that's intentionally bad, I've never made it through because it just doesn't make me laugh really.
Right.
Because it's not genuine. Like so the first Sharknado, like it was still kind of not a popular thing. I liked that. I watched that with my family. It was great. But the last one, Tara Reid has like a lightsaber and a jetpack and like all kinds of, like they just were pulling stuff out of their ass to make it like commercially successful. And
I think it worked, right? Like, didn't they
it worked is the sad thing. It's so bad. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, no, it's the meme movie. It's a movie that's a meme. You know,
I wonder if, you know, at some point when we have our Friends of Failure movie that comes out, is it going to intentionally be bad, or are we going to, you know, have you come in and be like, look, guys, you can't have a werewolf tornado. It's already been done. It doesn't make any sense. Like, no, but like they're friends and there's failure, and you know,
and then a werewolf tornado.
It makes sense, guys.
It's going to be like the show Friends, but they fail at being friends.
Ooh, that would be a great movie. It's like we have the same set, but it's just really bad friends, like shitty friends. You're like, Becky, you shouldn't do that because you're like a bitch and we don't like you. Like, they're just mean to each other.
Becky's like appalled, like I had no idea.
You told me this haircut looked good.
Right. Wow. You know, I don't know where entertainment's going to go, but it feels strange now with how we, obviously with YouTube and social media, we entertain each other now is kind of what happens, right? Where, you know, what is Hunter up to? And I see you on your Instagram, same thing with you, Megan, of, oh, look, like a picture of your dog, like awesome. And so I get that quick gratification. And it does sometimes seem almost absurd to me to go, all right, I'm gonna portion out 90 minutes to, you know, maybe 120 minutes and just watch a whole movie, right? Where there's a beginning, middle, and end, versus like, bam, 10 seconds. Ooh.
Oh, it's that instant gratification thing. But
yeah. And you know, that is interesting because one thing that's kind of disappeared from entertainment is the middle budget adult drama film. You know, that used to be the bread and butter of, say, the Oscars, or they might have a bigger budget one, but these days the you know, the entertainment industry has a wealth gap like the one in Mexico. You know, you have your big mega budget stuff and then everything else is really low budget. But a lot of entertainment, especially with younger people, is coming from YouTube. It's coming from content creators like what we're doing. Because that's what they're interested in. It's strange, but I had friends growing up who, when we would play video games, they would only want to watch, right? And, you would go, don't you want to play? Don't you want to play? Nope, I just like watching. And then your parents would walk in, they're like, why aren't you letting them play? They don't want to. I don't want to. Parents are going, no, it's because you're not letting them. Oh, I swear, they don't want to. Well, now there's people who make,
you just watch people
playing video games.
Twitch streamers.
These people, there are a lot of them apparently.
Yeah,
like it's to watch people play games.
That whole area is just wild to me, and I want to just make. I kind of game, but not very well. Like I'm not a good gamer, but I enjoy it. But there's people that just make it, and like, have you heard of Donkey?
Oh yeah, I love video game Donkey. Yeah, he's great.
Donkey. He makes $20 million a year
Really?
making those videos. My husband told me that. Isn't that just mind blowing?
That's 20 million.
And he makes video game reviews that are funny, and they're just like he just makes fun of games. They're so good.
His review of the Sopranos game for the PS2 and his review of Gex for the PlayStation, or was it Nintendo 64? Oh man, just kills me.
He's a genius, and his voice, like, yeah.
And he's one like James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, who gets ripped off a lot. A lot of people try to do his shtick, but there's only one donkey.
Yeah, only donkey.
I was the kid who I was bad at video games. I played Nintendo when I was little, but then, you know, that was about as far as I got with being good at a game. And I still play some games now, but I never really play a game by myself, right? And what's so strange to me now that you guys have brought that up is I don't go online to watch people play games. I just kind of ask people like, "Oh, you played it? Was it good? Was it bad?
Yeah.
You know, what did you like about it?" But even gamers will, I guess, because they're so overwhelmed with how much content's being thrown out for games, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you like indie games. I mean, you would look at the small category of indie games and it was like, I'm gonna try this one out. Now it's bloop, and you have page after page of just here's all these different games.
Yeah, but if you look at the store if you go on Steam or the Nintendo eShop, the amount of games for sale is insane, and the amount of stuff that comes out every week is insane. You know, and if you go on Steam though, the bar of quality, there's zero quality control. So.
Oh yeah, I've seen some stuff on there. I'm like, this might ruin my computer if I.
There are people who, no joke, their entire YouTube channel is just going through the garbage of Steam and streaming that. Just the incredibly shameless trash people put out there.
It's the car accident you can't look away from. I mean, you know, if you type in fail, which was something I did, you know, just to see, hey, what pops up on YouTube when you type in fail. I mean,
lots.
It's just people like falling off of a bike, or you know, eating shit on a skateboard.
Yeah.
Or like a little kid getting hit with a giant like exercise ball, like that kind of stuff.
Well, and it's funny because y'all, the theme of your show is failure, but we live in a time where failure can be much more public than it's ever been. You know, you'll see these live streams that just go south where people will attack each other.
Let's never do that.
No, but I mean, or somebody will get humiliated in some debate, and there's all kinds of stuff out there that's public.
Well, like it's just so visible, like we were talking about with social media, YouTube, platforms like that. There's no hiding it anymore. Not that you're intentionally hiding it in the first place, but like in the 90s, if you fuck something up, it's not necessarily, you're not going to tell the 500 people that you kind of know like you do now. Or like if it comes out in the news, if it's like a bigger kind of deal. Yeah.
Well, and even if it's a small thing, you stub your toe, but the noise you make when you did it, and someone goes, I could remix this into a song.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're getting all this traction of you just like horrifically stubbed your toe, and now there's like a song about it.
There's people raving to it like somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just like, who is this? They're like, Sam stubbed his toe. This is my jam.
But
I don't.
And because it's so easy to create content and publish content now, so many people do stuff where they go, oh, this is great. I'm recording a song, or I'm doing XYZ. And then they put it out there, and the reaction, it's not what they anticipated. And you get famous for the wrong reasons, or you get ripped apart, you know.
It makes me think of American Idol. Like back when it first started, everyone would watch that audition section because it was just, you couldn't look away, you know, the train wreck scenario.
Yeah, in fact, the very first season, I remember watching a recap of it, and there was a dude who had just graduated from my high school on there, and he was on the worst of the day thing. And he was a guy who was legitimately talented. I think he was going on there to mess with, as a joke, because he was a weird guy. And he was up there, his audition, he was going, The good times are here again. I just remember that, seeing him and going, what?
Yeah.
Oh my
What are you
gosh.
doing?
But
Do
that's
you think, is there regret after doing that? Going, wait a
but
minute, I
yeah.
could have potentially been really good, and then
Yeah, it was confusing because my friend and I saw it on TV and we went, he's not an untalented person. He's actually legitimately funny, but he's odd. You know, he probably thought he was doing some performance art by going on there and being bad.
And now
he was
it's on the internet forever.
well, and then what was his name? The William Hung.
That's
Yeah,
who yeah.
Yeah, he was a person who got famous because he was bad on American Idol.
And I mean, they ran with it for a while.
For
I
a
think
while.
I know for a fact he has an album, but I think
He has like several.
several at this point,
Yeah.
right? And people are like, he's dropping another one, guys, and you pop it into your like CD player,
Yeah.
roll the windows down.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, that was it almost felt like everyone was making fun of somebody who wasn't all there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever realized that it was almost the, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we all voted for you to be prom king or prom queen? And they're like, I did it. And everyone's like, yeah, you did. But you know what I mean? It's like, you know, at least they didn't like dump a bucket of blood from like, you know, the ceiling, like in Carrie, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That movie, you know, that movie doesn't scare me. But in terms of whenever it was made, it tried to make a point of when bullying goes way south,
like way
right?
too far. Yeah.
Not only in the act that they did of bullying, but then just the repercussions that, you know, they wouldn't have done it if they would have known this girl was, what was it? Like telekinetic, psychic. Yeah. And I mean, now things are flying around and you're like, whoops, we shouldn't have done that.
Should have checked if she could do that first.
Yeah.
Before we bully you, do you have any crazy superpowers that we need to know about? Just curious, you know, it's just a curiosity.
And Adam Sandler, it gave him that soundbite to sample where her mother goes, "They're all going to laugh at you."
Yeah.
On
and that became like this thing.
Yeah, on Adam Sandler. So his careers have an interesting like path.
Yeah.
He was super, super popular. I remember growing up and I loved his stuff. I watched the movie Click like 100 times. And then he kind of took a dip for a little bit and it wasn't great. But recently I heard he was in that movie Uncut Gems. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that his performance was amazing. And he's
a
like,
very stressful movie.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard, that everyone's like on edge of like, you know.
I started it and I was like, I don't want to go through this. Like, if this is the tone of the movie the whole time, I was like,
it gets worse.
How long is this movie?
Yeah.
I mean, right out the gate, they put you in a situation and you're like, oh. And the way he, you know, I ended up watching the trailer because I was just going to start the movie and see what it was, because I grew up listening to his albums, and of course watching Billy Madison and all that stuff. But you know, everybody talked about this movie, so I was like, all right, turned it on, and what is happening here?
This is not what I signed up for.
Yeah, he's like digging himself a hole, and it's about him trying to get out of it or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, his way of getting out of it is to keep digging. You know? So
yeah, there it is.
But it has the climax of the film is, you know, it's the perfect release of that tension. It's the
really
the way it's but not in the way you think.
Oh, okay.
It's very interesting. I won't spoil it, but
yeah, I feel like I'm gonna go watch it right after this. I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna sit through this.
Honestly, though, I think Sandler he's had a career that everyone should be deeply envious of. The reason I say that is he does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Honestly, he has his own production company. His company makes movies with his friends. They always do well. He's in a position where he just makes the kind of stuff he wants to make. He gets to do it with his friends. His movies always turn a profit. His films are not in the theater anymore. They're on Netflix now.
Yeah.
his stuff is Netflix exclusive, but he has a very good. He's had a great career, even if the movies aren't that good. They still have made money.
He's still, he just keeps going up. Yeah.
Not that that's the only metric of success. I mean, obviously, you know, you don't want to pump garbage into the culture, but he's had his ups and downs creatively. But as far as a career goes, I think anybody would kill to be where Sandler is, because he can get funding for his films. He can do what he wants. And if he wants to go do something like Uncut Gems or Punch Drunk Love or Spanglish, something that's a little different, he can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has his career is perfect, you know.
It's wild to me because you bring those up, and Spanglish was one that I was fairly younger. And I grew up with him being the funny man, and I think he had an influence on kind of how my humor is. But then seeing him kind of take it serious, right? But I never saw Grown Ups. But after you said what you said, I go, that's what he did. He was like, I'm going to get all my friends together and we're going to make a movie together.
No,
and they did it twice, right? They made two of them.
Two of them. Grown Ups 2 is the greatest movie of all time.
I've heard so like they all of his friends have kids, like they're at that age. So that's kind of what they made the movie for. It's very much like a family funny. It's not his raunchy, don't mess with the Zohan.
Yeah.
Like that. And I have a story on that. So that movie was out in theaters, and I was probably like 14, and I was with my cousins who were like 6, 10, like little kids. And my older cousin was taking us to go see that movie. And we just thought, Adam Sandler, he's funny, it'll be fine. We left when he started, you know, banging people. The lawn.
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, it's
so bad.
It's totally bonkers.
My cousin was mortified because she took these little kids to go see this, like.
Oh, yeah. It's one of his raunchier movies.
It's very raunchy.
My favorite is John Turturro as the Palestinian terrorist, and
we had to leave the theater. My cousin like gathered us up and was like covering her children's eyes, and like it was bad.
I saw Deadpool in theaters, and I was sitting in a maybe a couple of rows back, but there was a kid 10 years old, and I remember sitting there like, this doesn't feel right, but whatever, right? Like, I'm here to enjoy a movie. It's not my problem, you know, whatever. And some of the stuff that was happening in Deadpool, I'm like, there's like a kid in here while we're watching this. I feel like I should leave. I got to finish the movie, you know?
Well, I remember that. With Deadpool, I definitely noticed people who were way too young were watching that movie. Like,
I just feel like some of the parents just had no idea what Deadpool was. And
they're like, oh, it's a superhero.
It's another Marvel movie. Like, we get the comedy, we get the action, wait, is that his? Oh my god! Oh, he said the F word 150 times in the opening credits. Like, and you know, I think it's strange, you know, seeing Ryan Reynolds through his career. He's always had the same persona. He just eventually got to kind of accelerate it and then put it in Deadpool. But ever since Deadpool, I've seen movies, and I'm just, that's Deadpool. He kind of
does the same thing. He's one of those actors where they just deliver the same character.
Van Wilder, he's Deadpool. He just didn't have swords.
And people love it. They're like, it's fine. Yeah.
An actor who used to not be that way, but who settled into that is Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
he's always, oh hey, you know, I'm an eccentric rich guy. Hey, I don't even remember what I had for breakfast. What I'd have for breakfast? Oh, bacon and eggs. Oh, okay, thanks. I guess I don't know.
It worked out for him though, because wasn't Iron Man his comeback?
Yeah, his comeback was actually, he had been in a couple movies, but Downey was. You know, actually, his father, Robert Downey Sr., died the other day. I think Downey Jr. was exposed to a lot of drugs at an early age.
Sam, on my old podcast, we did a whole episode on him, and I did a lot of research. Like you're saying, his background was just drugs and alcohol and like trying to wreck his life. But he was an actor already. He was already successful. And he was in all of these legal battles and like drunk driving, alcohol, the whole thing. And then he kind of made a turnaround when he married his current wife and cleaned up. I think it was around like 2007, 2004, like early 2000s. And when would you say his comeback movie was? It not Iron Man.
No, it wasn't Iron Man. Iron Man was when he exploded again.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Downey went to prison. He had some, and there was a period of time where he was considered uninsurable.
Yeah.
They wouldn't,
no one wanted to work with him.
You could not get financial backing to work with him. But Mel Gibson was instrumental in getting Downey back on his feet. Gibson has had his own struggles with drugs and alcohol very publicly several times. I don't know about drugs, but alcohol definitely. Alcohol's a drug, whatever, semantics.
Yeah.
But Gibson, really tried to get Downey back on his feet, and the way he did that was he produced a film called The Singing Detective, which was an adaptation of an old TV show, and he put Downey in it as the star. It was a lower budget production that got him acting again, but he did a film a few years later with Shane Black called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and that movie was a sleeper. It was a low budget buddy movie. It had Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr., and that movie did very well. Then he did Iron Man, and the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang success is what
it like stepped him up to it.
Yeah. Because then the director of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang did Iron Man 3. So
okay.
Yeah, Shane Black.
So I remember he was on a show called Ally McBeal when I was a kid. I guess that was like 90s, maybe early 2000s. Yeah. And, my parents would watch it or whatever. And then he was on that show. And then one day I was like, well, he's gone. I think that's when he went to prison, right?
Yeah, something like that happened.
Yeah. And so I do think that, obviously it worked, because I picture his comeback was Iron Man, where it's, hey, I'm getting an opportunity to have a second chance or a third or fourth or 12th chance. I'm going to take it. Mm-hmm. And, as far as you can tell in terms of like his public relations, he doesn't seem to really go out of his way to be like, hey guys, like drugs and alcohol will really mess up your life, but you can get help. I think he just tries to be an example, right? Because I'm sure at this point he's just sober.
He said that he said when he was getting sober, he said he had to accept the fact that he may never act again. If that's what it takes for me to stay sober, I will never act again.
He also made a joke that I guess I can appreciate that he tried to have some humor, but he was quoted saying, I don't do drugs or alcohol anymore. I break out in handcuffs. Like I'm allergic to it. And it's interesting because it's funny, but I wonder if that was part of his process, right? Of, hey, you need to treat this as, the same way as a person who can't eat chocolate because they're allergic to it, or like you can't have nuts because you'll swell up and literally die.
Yeah.
I think it got that serious for him of, hey, if you want to make any kind of life for yourself. And I guess he was like, I don't even care about the acting anymore. I just want to be
he just wanted to be functioning. Yeah. And he's just a great example of a person like in the limelight that had such a public failure. Like it was all over the news when he got arrested and went to jail and everything. His career was over, and then to see him slowly have that kind of comeback.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And even when he had a conversation with Guy Ritchie after Iron Man came out. Guy Ritchie was developing Sherlock Holmes. And
great one.
Downey said, well, I'm interested in that role if you thinking about, if you don't mind hiring a guy who's not British or something. And Guy Ritchie said, he was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like this guy's a train wreck. I'm not hiring him. And then he said his agent told him, no, he's sober. He was just an Iron Man. Like, he's actually back up on.
Wow.
So Guy Ritchie said initially, he was like, no way, I'm not hiring you.
He still had that reputation. And that's, that's the hard thing about how public stuff is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause even still Iron Man had come out, and that it takes a while, especially in Hollywood, for that reputation to go away. To change.
Well, I've always heard that like when someone's hard to work with, it gets around. Like people know, this actor is really demanding or mean to the crew or whatever. Uh, like have you seen the video of Michael Cera exploding on a crew?
No, I've never seen that.
It's during Juno.
Really?
I think it was during Juno, and he goes, "All right, you know what? I'm just gonna explode now." And I don't remember anything he said, but you're in your own house, like,
yeah,
okay, I'm gonna go. Sorry.
How does it compare to Bale's explosion on Terminator Salvation? Because that one was pretty epic.
Kind of different.
The Michael Cera one just it made me uncomfy. Like,
yeah. So the Michael Cera one felt like somebody was like, "Oh my goodness," and they started filming. Obviously, the Christian Bale, whenever he was on the set of Terminator Salvation, was pretty intense. But I would say, so I don't know if you guys saw it, but randomly out of nowhere, they had this rant about Tom Cruise is screaming at someone about wearing masks and the protocols, and like, I do not want us to get back on quarantine. I will fire all of you. I don't care. And it felt like a publicity stunt. And maybe it was real.
Well, Tom Cruise also like jumps on couches and like he's
sure. But so what I'm saying is with that Michael Cera thing, it was so far. It happened in 2005 or 2004 when they were making the movie. We weren't in quite that capacity yet of everything was being recorded all the time. Like, I feel weird sometimes because I'll just be driving and I'll be like kind of talking to myself, which if you haven't tried talking to yourself, you should try it. It's good for you. But I'm driving, and I'll be like, I'll be like talking to myself and like having a conversation, sorting out, maybe a plan on a project or whatever. And I'll pause and be like, what if someone's like listening to me right now? I just have this feeling all the time now. You don't ever want to blow up because everyone's listening all the time,
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up like Michael Cera and cussing out the crew because you didn't get a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Was that what it was? I don't
think you got the point, Sam. I got what I needed from it, that's a topic that I think we could go on forever, right? You want to talk about failure. The movie industry has a lot of different approaches of it. I think one thing that's alarming to me, and it doesn't just it happens a lot in the music industry, where these people, they're begging for privacy, but their job kind of relies on them getting that publicity of being followed around. What are they wearing? What are they doing?
Yeah.
And they, whether they do it intentionally or not, there are a lot of people that end up gone because
it's too much. Like
they tried to medicate or or whatever. And it just,
I mean, Britney's kind of an example, and that's very like a hot topic right now, but constantly in the limelight. And how has that affected her life? She's successful, but like, she's at what cost?
It's terrifying.
Well, it's when it happens at a young age too, like with Britney. Shia Labeouf is another guy who's had
Shia. I watched his whole thing, and wow, he's
had his ups and downs, very, very downs, and but this is as old as Hollywood. The guy who played Alfalfa on the Little Rascals and the R Gang shorts, he was shot in an altercation with a friend, over like $20, and because he could not, he was one of those guys who couldn't handle it and became an extremely volatile, unstable adult.
Well, child stars in general, if we just like that whole topic, those kids have this, I can't imagine it because your childhood shapes you, obviously.
Yeah.
But you're like going through this unreal childhood in a way. Like it's this crazy platform that I can't even imagine how that affects somebody. And some people handle it well. And like, they keep a career or go on to do something else, whatever. But more often than not, our society likes to go, well, look at this guy who's like fucked up. Like, look how you remember so-and-so? Well, now he looks like this.
You remember Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks? Well, now he's a meth head,
Right.
That was
he beat that supposedly.
He did. He's
But do you hear that story as much? Probably not. Yeah.
No, you don't. But yeah, it's the child star fallen from grace is almost a morbid curiosity item.
Right. It drives me nuts. it's going to be weird if this is how we end on this topic, but so Britney Spears is somebody that's still alive, and there's a lot of things going on that I think are very real and very dangerous for her as a human being. And it sounds like nothing's going to happen about it. Like she's just stuck in it, but she did. She started as a little kid,
Mickey
and
Mouse Club, yeah.
Everyone talks about 2008. Britney Spears lost it, right? She like shaved her head. She's screaming about like people. I don't want them touching me. Like don't touch me. Get away from me. Went and got a tattoo. Blah blah blah. What really happened? I have no idea. But I feel like we're here, right? We're in this other very alarming kind of situation, and there are cries of help before the ultimate.
Yeah.
Oh God, how did we get here? Now let's reflect on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just drives me nuts because, as individuals, we can be like, hey, from what I think I know about this situation, we have to do something about it. What am I going to do? Am I going to go online and just be like, free Britney, and then she's going to be free?
I totally,
because
I do that.
I demanded it, so it's going to happen, and it scares me because.
Well, what you need to do is cry under your bed sheets and record a video.
Well, Britney Spears music playing, "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time," and they get like really in the zone.
Do you remember the guy who was crying, "Leave Britney alone"?
Chris
Crockett.
Yeah, and he's under the bed sheet. Yeah.
Oh man, that was one of the early viral videos.
That was an OG YouTube video. Yeah.
People couldn't not watch that. It was on TV all the time. They looped it.
Like they were it on all the late night shows,
But it's wild because he got upset about someone he doesn't know personally.
Yeah.
Like at all. Then he got famous off of it.
What's funny? You're talking about getting upset over people you don't know. I told my wife today, I think a Blink-182 song came on. And I said, I'm very worried that Mark Hoppus is going to die soon because he has stage 4 lymphoma. And I said that's actually a celebrity death that would hit me, not because I listen to Blink-182 all the time. I like Blink-182, but their music was around a lot when I was growing up. That was the soundtrack to high school, was their stuff. That's when they were one of the biggest bands in the world.
That reminds me of that's how I feel about Alan Rickman passing.
Oh yeah.
I grew up literally almost in the same age range as I grew up with those characters, and then I've learned about his other work after that, and that felt like someone I don't know, but it was weird. I was upset. I did not have a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Robin Williams and whatnot.
Oh yeah. The list could go on and on about it's those people that actually shape your life. And that's probably why Chris cried about Britney. She shaped his life in some way, and then it, moved you.
They just had that direct impact. I know another one for me is Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
He's in his 90s and
he's not gonna die. It won't happen.
It's like Betty White, she can't ever go. She's just
they'll be completely stuck, but they'll be like, you can't kill me.
They're immortal, yeah.
But just seeing Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for the first time, that was one of the defining movies. When I saw that, there was before I saw that movie and after. Wow. And Clint is so special to me, and he's the last of a dead breed.
Yep.
He's the last of the Stone Males.
He is old school. Yeah.
Old school. Came out of that old milieu, and just they don't make guys like him in movies anymore. They just so there's something about him, but on paper it seems silly. This is someone I don't know, I've never met, but they have that impact on you.
Huge impact.
Yeah.
Well, hey, so it's that time. We have to go, my friend. Dude, I really enjoyed having you here today. That was fun. I
feel like we could talk for hours. Yeah.
Every time I talk to you, I definitely learn something new. And I never know what it's gonna be. It's kind of like the Cracker Jack box, and it's like, oh my goodness. And now I have all these things that I'm gonna have to block out some time tomorrow so I can check out this, check out that. So I really appreciate it. I'd like to give the opportunity to everyone that we have on the show. Is there anything you would like to leave us with before Megan kind of closes us out?
I'll just say, you guys have a show about failure. I guess all I'll leave out is that failure is important as long as you learn something. So,
I like that.
Persist, keep trying.
Don't ever quit. You can be Robert Downey Jr. too, right?
Well, there's a film called The Hammer with Adam Carolla that I highly recommend, but it opens with him going, they say never give up on your dreams, but if your dream is to be a Mouseketeer and you're pushing 40, you might want to let that one go. So.
I think that's a good quote too on failure. Like, know your limits.
Just so you know. Yeah,
let's be realistic.
100%. Perfect. Well, I appreciate that, man.
My turn.
And can I plug my show real quick?
Yeah, go plug away.
Please.
Midnight Movie Cowboys, show about movies, midnightmoviecowboys.com, or you can look us up on iTunes, anywhere podcast RSS feeds are found. Check us out.
Perfect. And we are going to put you on our Friends of Failure Instagram.
Okay.
So people might come say hi. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, you'll be easy to find. We'll make sure. And I'll just close us out. So you can find us on most social media. You can find us on YouTube, all under Friends of Failure. We also are asking for failure stories still. You can email them to friendsoffailurepodcast@gmail.com. Or Sam, I think I'm going to name our mailbox Ethel, because we keep referring to this mythical old lady, because we're pretending or we don't know if it's the right number. But give Ethel a call at 916-304-3545. And just leave us a voicemail about, funny story or a lesson learned, whatever you got.
I can't wait to get voicemails where people are talking to Ethel now.
They're like, Ethel!
About the photos they found of me from 2008 on my Facebook.
Why do you keep doing this? He keeps bringing it up.
It's gonna be a joke that lasts all the way until episode, I don't know, maybe 100 is when it'll die. No, awesome. Yeah, I definitely look forward to hearing from people. Input is always great, and interacting with fans would be fun, right? So we like to leave you with one last thing, and that is life is happening for you, not to you. So go out there and fail.
If it's not I'm stronger than you, it's I'm wiser than you, I'm more loving than you, I'm more tolerant than you, I'm more sophisticated than you. It doesn't matter what it is, but this constant competition is going on. This is the secret. This is the secret. You can't make a mistake.